We have 8 spots.
They're classy too, man. I can wear this on a date.
People who are most successful are the ones who don't just give up.
Hey, how good are these to-go boxes?
Our to-go boxes, they're not good. They're f***ing amazing. How did we get started here at Albemarle Paper? Well, late 2008, my cousin John and I started this paper company, and we got all sorts of different products.
Hey, Nick, come on, man. Let's get to work.
We got cleaning products, too. You got a party this weekend? We got your back. Anything you need here at APS. Plates, napkins, silverware, table covers. We got everything covered, right, boys? What other items do we carry? Paper towels? I got it. Toilet paper? I got it. Gloves? We got you. Pizza boxes? You're probably wondering, where are we? Where's Albemarle Paper? Don't you worry about that. We got you. I'll bring the product to your front door. See you guys.
Hello and welcome to a new episode of the MLS Corner, the best corner in all of MLS. Man, what a week we had last week. Ups, downs, transfer rumors, player departures, player arrivals. You know, Charlotte, the Queen City, you always got to have drama. And so, but we're finally here. All right, I've got some great people on this show today. We've got, I want to say to my left, I think. Well, on this side, I have Brian. Brian, how are you today, my man?
Yo, I'm doing great tonight. I'm just ready to talk some soccer, to be honest. I think there's going to be a lot of decent debate from the crowd, you know, from the fans tonight, from us. And I'm just really excited to talk about it. There's a lot of things and developments that have happened. So I'm excited to get
Brian
going.
told us tonight. He's like, listen, anybody that wants to get in an argument with me tonight, let me. His words, not mine. And then we've got another one of the top bin writers, low key, that kind of looks like in an ATL shirt, but we're gonna let it slide. Tyler, how are you today, my man?
Yeah, you know, ATL doesn't have nice kits like this one.
True.
Yeah, I mean, back to Brian. We had a meeting earlier, and I was like kind of scared the whole time. He's just like in an angry mood today.
Nice. And then last but not least, we've got my man, the OG, the guy who's been here since pretty much Sergio Ruiz was here, but he ain't going anywhere. We got Lee from CLTFC Fan TV. How are you, man?
I'm good, man. I just had two shocking moments of my life, man. First was Kim Kardashian and her man Pete Davidson broke up. That tore me apart, dude. I just don't know how I'm gonna get over that. And then the damn intro, dude. That was legit. You know, that guy needs to be careful throwing the paper around, man. Inflation's through the roof, man. But that's a whole nother show that we do, man, about politics on another night. So, yeah, what's up, boys? Appreciate you inviting me.
For sure. Yeah, I hope y'all like that Albemarle video, man. It's a quality video that those boys have. And so,
shout out to everybody out there in the chat.
For sure. Also, the Yeti clan is always good to see the Yeti clan as well.
Yeah,
those boys always bring some energy. They got photos, videos with Clint Dempsey. I heard they went to dinner with him too. So
yeah, they're Chelsea fans, so we don't give them too much clout.
Okay, yeah. Let me stop talking about them.
Yeah.
And then shout out to my boy Jonathan. All right, but before we start the show, I definitely have to give a couple of shout outs. I got to give a shout out to my boy Tanner Long for this amazing piece of artwork. You can check it out on CLT Fan Creation. So
he's actually going to be on our show tomorrow night too, man. So
perfect. That's a good intro. Yeah. So he does some quality work. So check out his stuff out. And then I got to give a shout out to the GOAT, the man, the guy. Listen, this man is now my favorite person of Charlotte FC. I don't care who is there, but my man, Lloyd, for getting me this match-worn Andy Najar shirt.
But who does he play for?
Oh, he's from Honduras. I'm from Honduras. I grew up watching this guy rip it up. I used to watch this guy when he was at Anderlecht in Belgium.
I do not want a Bell shirt from LA, man.
I got the shirt.
No, I want to take.
I know it's match worn. You know how I know it's match worn?
Because you're still sleeping with it. Man, I want to take a Bell shirt, and he's British, man.
So shout out to my boy. You know, this is probably one of the best gifts I've ever gotten. This man, Jonathan, they grew up together.
No ways one in his mouth, man.
You're not British anymore, man. You're American now.
I'm just saying, I'm going to take a Bell shirt just because, man. It'd have to be a Charlotte or a Spurs shirt.
This is my country, man. Why y'all calling me a traitor? First of all, we took a dub that night.
Get his jersey from when he played in a game for the country and not for another club. That takes.
Listen, this is a match order shirt.
You're worse than Eric, man. He supports. Well, that's it. You're Barcelona, Liverpool, then PSG, Real Madrid. You know, the list goes on, man. It's like Top End just supports everything and everyone.
I would like the record to show I will absolutely take a game worn Bale shirt, and I'm not even British. I will tap.
Exactly.
That's because he was so used to getting his ass whipped when he played for Spurs against Arsenal. But anyways, this is a Charlotte FC show, and we should talk about Charlotte FC.
It definitely is, Lee, and thank you for bringing us back on topic.
Yeah.
And, you know, we have to start where it hurts, man. Charlotte lose 3-2 to Chicago. You know, a very topsy-turvy game. I mean, from the get-go, it took 26 seconds for us to open the score, which was kind of annoying because Brian and I were on the field, and I was like, we need to get back to the press box. And I was like, we need to hurry up before goal. And I'm like, come on, dude. Then we run back out. We see, like, already? Good God. So, I mean, the team started with a lot of energy, you know. I felt like that goal kind of did them a disservice because I feel like they got complacent through the game. Chicago turned it around 2-1. We were able to tie it thanks to our old reliable own goal. And then second half, you saw what happened. We lost 3-2. Tyler, talk to me about this game.
I think we're a little unfortunate. We were a little lucky at the same time. I mean, those finishes, especially the first one, like he put that in the top of the net from a hard angle. Like most players aren't going to score that. But then they hit the post. He hit the post later on. We had some shots go right at Kleina. It's a game that really hurts to lose. I mean, it would have hurt to draw on that one. So getting 0 points from that one hurts, especially with the game coming up ahead. But we're going to win the next game, so it doesn't matter as much. But
nice. I love the confidence. I mean, it's like Tyler mentioned, Brian. I mean, it's a game that hurts, but for many reasons. I mean, this was a winnable game for Charlotte. I know we had a post a couple of weeks ago saying, hey, these are the next 5 games for Charlotte FC. You know, all teams that were below us on the table, right? And now things are looking very, very gloomy for Charlotte. How important was this game, Brian? Talk to me about it. Now,
I would say, I mean, for playoffs, it was borderline vital. I mean, like we had talked about earlier, 10 to 12 points was kind of that projection for that 5-game stretch, right? And then that led into the final 10-game window where that would really set us up for success. And we ended up with 3, right? I mean, technically we still have the Columbus game, but even with the win there, that still only leaves us with 6. And I think it could leave us well short of what the stretch of games we want after this to be able to like maintain that playoff, like an edge into the playoffs. And I think you could really feel that after the game, the way the crowd reacted, man, it sounded like pretty painful. The way that, like, I mean, being in the back, like by the press conference and interviewing players afterwards in the locker room, like, I mean, it seemed like the mood shifted throughout the whole, like that one, it felt different. Like it hit a little different in terms of just seeing home field not be what it has been and how we've been able to count on it in the past. And I think that's what like kind of creaked the door open a little bit mentality wise for this team in terms of just seeing that kind of performance happen.
100%. I agree with you there, especially like there was moments in the game and there was very edgy moments in the game, right, Lee? I mean, there was a couple of times where like bad, poor referee decisions, like somebody mentioned, caused a lot of drama on the field. You saw players fighting. Talk to me about this game, Lee.
Yeah, it got a little heated, right? It was definitely a chippy game, but I mean, Chicago kind of played that game, run the clock down, did what they had to do to stop us from getting in a rhythm, right? I mean, it was good clock management by them. I mean, you know, I'm kind of nervous now. If we score within the first 5 minutes, are we just going to get our asses handed to us, right? I mean, Chicago was winnable, man. We should have beat them. And now we're, you know, I mean, we would have been what, like 6th or something, 6th or 7th if we had won.
Yep.
You know, a very solid position to be in with the run in. I mean, we got LA and then New York coming up. It's going to be that's tough road games, man, from one coast to the other, and the teams are good. You know, I just hope we don't get embarrassed next week.
Yeah.
Oh, dang, that's a. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, well, and I also think this game really highlighted some of the issues. I mean, not that they hadn't already come up before, but some of the issues we're seeing in the midfield in terms of just being able to stay composed. And like, I think we got really dominated there specifically. I think like our midfield as a whole, like the three centimeters were really off the pace in terms of the way they defended and just like it seemed like at times they were chasing shadows. Like that second goal Chicago scored, it just seems like all three midfielders were like, and the inability to clear their lines also. Jalen, Quinn specifically both had a hard time clearing their lines during that half. So it just seemed like we started to really see some of those inexperiences coming to light in a really intense way that I think kind of had been like,
I know it was Chicago at home, man. That should have been a 3-point game, man. And like I've said, it was like an away performance.
Yeah,
100%. And then just talking about that as well. I mean, Latanzio decided to again go with a midfield trio of Ben Bender, Quinn McNeil, and Brant Bronico, who all just played on Wednesday. Was it a mistake maybe on his part to start all three again? Especially given because Quinn, especially Ben, looked a little bit gassed out in that game.
Who would you have put in there to replace Bronico? I mean, he has to start, right?
Well, yeah, I think Bronico's fine, but I would have probably took out Ben and started out Jordi Alcivar because I mean he came in and definitely brought some flair, brought some progression of the ball. I mean, obviously we're all going to look at pass for their speed, but he came in and really gave us more of an attacking threat ever since he got on the pitch.
Jones too, I think, also provided a little bit of a different bit of physicality to the game in the middle too. He didn't seem to quite get bossed around the way Quinn and Ben, and that was also what surprised me about McNeil is I feel like Quinn hadn't been getting bossed around like that. I think that's why he was earning minutes over Ben. But I think in this game, I think a big part of it was the tired legs, but he just definitely seemed off the pace, out of position way more often than he normally does. But I mean, I think it's just the short rest. I think it's also the lack of midfield depth we just have in general, and the lack of rotation that has been happening there. And I think it just really has caught up to us. I think it started catching up to us back in Toronto and Miami, really. And it's just kind of like
Miami second half for sure.
Right. You know, and so it kind of just continues from there. And it like every once in a while, like we get DC United, but I mean, they've been trash all season. And so we were able to like cover that up a little bit. Right. But I think it's overall like we just have some pretty tired legs out there in that midfield.
100%. And we got to talk about the most important thing that happened in the game. Not only did we lose a pretty much game that we needed to win, but we lost, in my opinion, our best player, one of the best players of the season for Charlotte FC, Guzman Corujo. And from the conversations I've had, I don't expect him to return this season, guys. So it was even, you could tell Brian and I were in that presser, and Latanzio was very, very upset at the fact that, you know, like the conversations he had with the medical staff told him things weren't looking good. And the conversations I've had this week, I don't expect Guzman Corujo to be back this season. It's hasn't been confirmed yet, but I'm pretty much confirming to you guys, letting you know here on the show that don't expect to see Guzman Corujo. How significant of a blow is losing Guzman Corujo, especially going into this crucial portion of the season, Lee?
Man, you know how I feel about Guzman, man. He's probably one of my he pretty much is my favorite player. And to see him go out, you saw the game shift, right? I mean, when he went out, we wasn't as solid in the back. I know we put Fuchs over and brought Mora on or whatever, but man, still, I mean, I think Fuchs is he's aging out of the game, right? I don't expect to see him next year. I mean, I guess the saving grace, if there is anything in this, is that we did sign a central defender for in the transfer window, but I won't mind seeing Jan in there, man. I'd, give him a run out. I mean, if we're going to play those long balls to Gaines all day long anyways, Jan's got a foot on him and can make those passes.
That's a good point. That's
So,
a very good point. Brian, talk to me about that. How does Charlotte FC adjust? Do we stay? Because, I mean, when we saw Fuchs there, especially in that third goal, I mean, it was very evident that, we can't play him in a back four as a center back. So what does Latanzio do? Does he stay with a back four and switch Fuchs and puts in Jan? Do we go to a back five and switch the formation?
Yeah, I think he's got some tough decisions ahead, right? Because I think Guzman is one of the key figures that really covered up a lot of the inexperiences from this squad throughout the course of the entire season, right? I mean, he was just such a fireman. He would put out all the fires for the team whenever there was mistakes made and just inexperienced decisions happening. He was the one there covering a lot of those mistakes. And without him, I mean, you could just see the change in what happens when mistakes are made. I mean, there's just nobody there in the same way to cover that. So figuring out who can do that, because those mistakes aren't going to stop, right? We have a ton of inexperience in this squad. And so mistakes are going to continue to happen. Who can cover the fires? I think likely it has to be, hopefully Walks can step up into that role in terms of just being that guy who can be the last line of defense and put out those fires. He's got a similar.
The problem is, though, it's going to be a new partnership no matter who goes in there, right? And that's going to affect it too.
For sure. I think that's also whether or not they stick with a back four or switching to a back five for the remainder of their season, or at least the next couple of games, just because of the firepower we're going up against in the next 4 days. It's an insane amount of attacking options that they have. And so I mean, I would like to see Jan as well. I'm a little concerned about him coming right into LA right now, because I mean, so if you put him in, once you put Jan in, I feel like you got to stick with him the rest of the season just because you want to see what he's got, right? I think that's kind of the route you go. And so if you start with him in LA, that means he's got to pretty much be 60 minutes against Vela and then another 30 against Bale for his first start.
Yeah, but sometimes players come in and they just hit it, they play out the park on their introduction game, if you will, right?
Yeah.
And maybe we'll get lucky with that bounce.
Yeah, I mean, So essentially, what you happen there is you play with a coin flip. So we see it could be a situation where he totally steps up, and then we're like, oh man, we might probably have a center back starter for the from now on. I mean, if he shows up against Avila and Bale, which is a bit of a long shot, I would say for sure, just because they're two of the best attackers in MLS, and for him to show up like that would be incredible. But if he can hold his own, at least, I think that would also be a good showing. My one concern is how big of a hit is it to his confidence if say Vela puts up a hat trick, also in the realm of possibilities, right? And then he has to go up against Bale for 30 minutes after that. Right?
I mean, you wouldn't blame him though, would you? I mean, at that point, it'd be the team, man. But
it's how he feels, right? It's how he feels if he's in those one-on-one situations, right? It's how he feels after the fact. I'm just saying that those are all in the realms of possibility, right? Because it's going to be a mentality thing.
I just hope we don't get embarrassed.
Yeah.
How are you seeing this, Tyler? Do you switch and put in Jan? I mean, in my opinion, this is exactly what Jan has been waiting for all season. I would be in the coach's ears saying, hey, this is the opportunity, right? You have nothing to lose. We already think we're going to lose to LAFC, right? So
I feel like they're going to go to a back five for this next game at least. And regardless of what happens, somebody's going to have to step up at center back, whether that be Sobaczynski or Malanda maybe in a few weeks.
Right.
I mean, Walks is going to continue to start. I'm not a big fan of Fuchs playing in the back four at center back. We'll probably see that quite a few times the rest of the season. But I think I would.
Go ahead, keep going.
No, you go ahead.
I was gonna say I think we saw this in a cup game too. We saw Derek Jones for a little bit as a center back. Yeah. But honestly, it's not really it's not. You're not about to experiment against LAFC.
If only we had McCoon.
I would love to see the McCoon against Bell.
No.
Jorge, do you mind if I jump on? Hub Likes posted a question about the formation if we switch to a back five.
But let me just answer this quickly.
Okay.
So it's gonna be about 2 or 3 weeks, for players to that visa process, and so we're definitely not gonna see them maybe Orlando, but that's a long shot. Who do we play after Orlando? I think on the 27th we play somebody. I can't
Toronto.
remember. Toronto. That'll probably be the game. And then speak on this because this is where your Shinyashiki thrives, right?
Yeah, so I think my preference in this situation, if we went to a back five, would be a 5-3-2, or at least having two strikers up top, because then you get to have Carroll and Shinyashiki playing together side by side. Shinyashiki is that second striker, where I just feel like he's a little bit better in the attack. I think his finishing is. I mean, I think he just feels more comfortable there, and I feel like he's just stronger in that position. Whereas when we stick him out. I mean, I definitely don't like him on the right wing because he wants to be on his right foot taking shots. And I don't like him out there because he's not really a big distributor of the ball in terms of like getting that final pass in for assists or for shots on goal. And if he's on the left, I mean, Yordi Reyna is just a better winger. Like he's just a better natural winger. And so for Shinyashiki to get the minutes that he likely deserves, I think the 5-3-2 is probably the better option there. And then you just have your two guys up top.
Who do you sacrifice, though? You sacrifice, in my opinion, your best attacker right now in Yordi Reyna.
Yeah, I think that's I mean, I guess it's the one other downside too, right? Either you go with two wingers again, and you kind of go with probably Gaines and Reyna with the 5-4-1, or I mean, either way. Let's see, because the 5-3-2, you don't sacrifice the middle as much, but middle's likely to be sacrificed anyways because we'll have inexperience regardless, right? I mean, we're just gonna get dominated in the middle. Like Cifuentes and Ilya Sanchez are gonna have their way, like in the middle. I think, unfortunately, and just finding a way around that to have some pressure so we can get behind that back line. I think that's where also Gaines could be vital too. It's just because we need somebody to be able to get behind them because otherwise that line, they're like LAFC's like back line is just gonna really push us up. And so having somebody there to like keep them honest is going to be super pivotal because I imagine they're going to be pressing us hard and often.
I really want to see the 5-3-2 because having Shinyashiki like up front is obviously better. I know Brian's done a little bit of work on looking at how that compares statistically. And Swiderski has always done better in a two-striker system. I mean, that's why you see him dropping so deep a lot of times. He likes to play with another striker. I mean, he did it in Greece. He did it for the national team. One positive I see in the 5-3-2 is that Mora and Lindsay both looked pretty good going forward in the last game, and Mora did as well against DC. So at the beginning of the year, that would have been a little iffy for me with the offensive output from either of them, but they've started to look a little better in that respect.
100%. Even the ball. I mean, Reyna's goal came from a Lindsay cross, a great cross, by the way. And so, it's definitely tough. It definitely opens up a lot in terms of what Latanzio can and can't do for this game. And so, speaking of what he can and can't do for this game, it's been a very active market for Charlotte this last week. I mean, we've seen the loss of Christian McCoon, who was traded to New England Revolution for $400K in GAM. We saw Titi Ortiz leave earlier in the month. The first player to kind of go out was Alan Franco. And today, it was made official, Sergio Ruiz, Charlotte FC's very first player. I mean, this one kind of hit home for a lot of us. I think, one, because Sergio was such a great guy. Two, because you were kind of starting to see like an old Sergio that when he was at Las Palmas, he was balling out. And we're kind of seeing that again. And three, man, he was the very first player we signed. I feel like there is something special there, like you're number one for a club. You never you really don't see things like that in any sport, right? And so, so that was made official today. And then Charlotte FC did a 3 signings on deadline day last week. They added an experienced right back in Nathan Byrne at 30. They've added what we've been crying for all season, a new center attacking midfielder in Nuno Santos, who's coming from Benfica. And then they've added a guy with potential as a center back in Adilson Malanda, French center back. And so I want to ask you guys, and I know I posed this question earlier today on Twitter, and I want to hear from everybody in the comments. How do you grade this transfer window for Charlotte FC? 4 departures and 3 arrivals. And I'll start off with you, Lee.
Yeah, I mean, other than the surgery one outgoing, man, I mean, McCoon, I never rated him, right? We saw how he played. He definitely wasn't here in Charlotte for sure. And the other 2 apparently were Mars guys, right? So there's that. Bringing in the 3 in, I'm excited for him. We finally got our, attacking midfielder that we needed. I guess the only thing I could really bitch about is I would give him a B, a solid B. It's just it took too late to get him in, right? We're seeing that now, right? We could really use 1 or 2 of those guys really like next Saturday, right? And we're going to have to wait, until Orlando, we're thinking now.
Yeah.
And it's just, and then time for them to settle and that sort of thing. So, they're probably not coming in till the 70th minute of the Orlando game anyway. They probably won't start, right? Just because that's how they do it. And I don't know. I would just say I think the worst part about it was it took us so long to get them. But knowing how football transfers work and that sort of thing, right? I mean, there's a lot of moving parts. So, I mean, you can't really knock the club for that. We got the players that we identified, it seems, and we got them signed, and they're in Charlotte. And it's just a matter of legalities now. So a solid B for sure.
Yeah, that's where you can't really fault the club for how negotiations go. You know what I'm saying? That to me, that's very tough. We can complain that they came in last minute, but a week ago we were complaining that there was nobody to talk about, right? Yeah. So I really can't go that route. And before I let one of you go, I gotta say, in my opinion, I think this is a C, and I'll tell you why I think it's a C. We lost 4 players. I know the club can't control when they come in, but we're not going to have these players in the most crucial time of the season, which is now, especially after a loss for Chicago. We need Nuno Santos right now. We need Adilson Malanda right now. We need yes, we don't necessarily need Byrne.
No, but that goes back to what you were just saying, though. You can't ding the club for negotiating in the time it takes to get here, right?
In my opinion, our midfield is depleted. We don't have enough in the midfield, and you saw that this weekend.
All right, I give you that.
And so that's why this window, in my opinion, and like I said, you can't blame the club for when the transfers are coming in. But you know what? We won't have enough for the next 2 to 3 weeks to at least give us the fighting spirit that we may be able to do something. Hopefully, if by some miracle these guys can pull a win away at LAFC or a win away at New York City FC, that changes the whole dynamic for when these guys can come in and actually make an impact. And I'll let you go next, Brian.
Yeah, so I think a big part of this transfer window, right, is a continued extension of the Mar firing, right? So that's a big part of this whole window right here. And the departures, I mean, it's all related and correlated directly to Mar being let go and that not being the right fit, which is what leads to the amount of center midfield depth that's now gone because they didn't want to be here anymore, right? I mean, Franco not wanting to travel with the team is a huge red flag, and you have to cut ties at that point, right? TT seemed like the intensity was not what he wanted, right? And not how he wanted to play. You got to cut ties with that because, I mean, he had to go with the philosophy.
Who was given a fair shot, by the way.
And Latanzio wanted him to be key, right? He said at the first press conference, he was like, he is key to this whole project. And he wanted him to be key to this project, and he seemed like he opted out. And so a lot of those things are cutting ties, right? We got international roster spots back. We got Gam, like a massive, I honestly thought we got more Gam than maybe Maku. I mean, we got more Gam for him than Shinyashiki. We paid for Shinyashiki, like for a lot of like guys who could start for a few teams.
We robbed New England, man. We robbed them.
And we could get $775K if he ends up starting there, right? So, like, I mean, dude, that's like pretty close. That would have been close to a record Gam deal like 2 years ago. And so, like, I think that's like, I mean, because what Paul Ariel, it was the record at like 2 million, but then before that, it was like 1.1 was the record. So, like, the record jumped up a few times in this last year. So, like, we ended up getting a ton of like a decent amount of Gam for him, and could be a lot more. So, I think for getting that deal across the line and having like that much return on investment on a guy who's not going to be playing really anymore. And also another thing about these departures is it shows that the club is willing to work with the players in terms of like, hey, is this a right fit for you? Can we help you get a right fit also, right? I think that's also going to help future transfers coming in. They see like, hey, I can go here and the team might be willing to work with me in terms of like getting me, like if it doesn't end up being a right fit, finding another move and another solution so that I don't like just get completely effed in my career, right? Like I think the team and McCoon realized like, hey, the minutes aren't here. I want minutes. Can we figure out a solution? And they found one. I think that probably like will be something that players will highlight in the future and be like, hey, I can like, it's a risk worth taking coming to this club because if it ends up not fitting right, they're willing to work and make things happen to move on. I think when it comes to the arrivals, I mean, they check a lot of the boxes for me, right? I think right back was actually, I mean, this is maybe a controversial opinion, but I think right back was actually a bigger need than left back, simply because if you look at the end of the contract, like players we have under contract going into the next year, we only have Jalen Lindsey under contract, right? Whereas we have 2 left backs under contract going into next year. So we're missing that depth piece at right back. And so
but I feel like that could have been added in the winter window though.
Yeah, but do you go for a player that you want that's available
right now? No, there's nobody that can create in our midfield, right? You know, Jordi Alcivar maybe, but like that's not specifically his role. Sergio Reese, a lot of people said that he was a cam, and I'm like, he's definitely not a cam. Miguel, the first game, Miguel played him as a 6. So, you know, I mean, that was a position that we needed addressing, right? In my opinion.
If players not available, players not wanting to come here, you kind of have to play that role, you know, that as well. I mean, if we knew we was going to need a right back, hey, this guy's available, let's go ahead and get him while we can.
Yeah.
That pays dividends for the future. I know that's something we want to hear Saturday for sure, but you know, so I agree with Brian on what he was saying.
Yeah, I mean, because you can't really go with like, well, we'll just wait and fill that spot later, because like there might. I mean,
no. I agree that it was needed. I'm just saying it wasn't like it wasn't as detrimental as getting somebody who can create in the midfield was.
Well, I mean, I think that's what Nuno Santos ideally represents, right? I think he's that creative attacking option that they're thinking that can fill that role. And I think the other upside to that signing specifically is they got him at a TAM, right? So ideally he could hit, right? So upside, he could hit. We don't need a YDP or a DP cam anymore because he hits, right? So he's now that. You now have 2 open DP spots in the future to fill out more attacking threat down, which is what LAFC did, right? Their U22s and their other positions hit, right? What?
I said we're not getting Bell caliber, that's for sure.
No, but what I'm saying is like the strategy behind that is like you hit on your U22s and your other positions, and then what it opens up is that, I mean, they have an extra DP slot just hanging around, right, until the end, just cause, and like that's how that ends up happening. You hit on these TAM deals and these U22s and the 23-year-old, like and the little bit more high risk moves, and if they hit, now you've got 2 more DP spots. So I think that's like what the upside for Nuno is specifically, is like if he ends up being the cam for the next 2 to 3 years, which is what his contract is. I mean, the upside is not just him playing, it's that it opens up some really like the ability to sign a lot more playmakers to fit alongside Carroll on the wings or in the midfield. I mean, they could just get wild with it and get like a DP left back. You know, it just provides a ton of options.
Yep. No, I feel you. What you laughing at, Tyler?
Tyler, yeah.
The DP left back.
Yeah.
I'm thinking the DP left back we're signing is. I think we did pretty good. I'd probably, if I had to give it a letter grade, I'd say B- with the ability to go up depending on how it pans out. Like Brian kind of mentioned, we have a lot to work with in the off season in terms of our roster flexibility.
Yeah. And
I think bringing in Byrne will be huge just for his offensive contributions. If Nuno Santos comes in and does well, that's perfect. If he doesn't, we didn't sign him up for a huge DP deal. And Malanda, I know you mentioned earlier, like players coming in, maybe not starting immediately, if we need him, I mean, he's coming out of the League Two in France, and their season had already started. He played games this season for them. So I think he comes in. He'd have to get used to the team, but he's ready to, fitness-wise, he's ready to go. Meanwhile, Byrne skipped out on preseason for Derby County due to his contract issues and their relegation. But
yeah, man, this is a great point by Maxwell. If the front office thinks Santos is our camp, why are they still holding on to the number 10? Bro, that's a really good question. I mean, initially, I don't think he's been given a number, but in training, we saw him wearing a 6, right? So maybe, they're considering maybe adding another attacking threat in that midfield. I mean, of course they are, but it's a good point nonetheless.
I would imagine he'd probably just maybe pick that number to be frank.
Like speculating, and then he's
I mean, because like at the end of the day, they can just be like, "Hey, we brought this new star in. He can be the 10, right?" Like you can. I mean, it's not like you just numbers aren't like frozen on people. They can be moved. I don't know. I would think that's a little bit that's fishing for some speculation. I mean, maybe.
Have to drink every time we say speculation. I kind of disagree with Tristan's comment though about firing Mars really set us back. I don't believe it that.
No. I think hiring Mars set us back.
Well, there's that.
100%.
I think firing was necessary, but bringing him in at the beginning, taking the risk on a guy who had 1 year of experience, like 1 year of successful experience, and the second year was pretty rough, right? And so we took a pretty high risk, high reward kind of situation, and it did not pay off at all. And so we're kind of paying for that now. But I think firing was absolutely the right move. I think hiring and taking that big of a high risk is now hopefully that's a lesson learned. Like, hey, we can take these higher risk moves, but like it could potentially cost us most of the season or right now a ton of midfield depth, right? So I think that's what the long-term detriment is in this situation. So hopefully that's a lesson learned.
Yeah, I'm not saying he's the solution by any means. I'm just saying firing Mars did not set us back.
And only one of Mars' players really set himself in the team with Corujo.
Yeah,
none of the others ever looked very good.
I don't know if Latanzio is the solution, but I definitely think that keeping Miguel around wouldn't have
been so toxic right now.
It was already bad. It was already like a bad environment, right? Mm-hmm. Like you would have just made it worse keeping him around.
You would have lost to Houston.
Like people said, like we've seen some improvement under Latanzio. And I mean, you're not gonna. In my opinion, I wasn't expecting a night and day transformation of the team. Right? The guy who's only been coaching now 8 official games as a head coach, and he's kept us in the playoff spots for most of it, or at least in contention, right? So, that's just my take on it.
Yeah, you need the combination of like tactical brilliance with like being able to be be able to manage people as well, right? And I think what Mar represented was an elite level of tactical, analytical ability and just no people management skills, right? And I think that's what the end result ended up kind of being. And now Latanzio is kind of the opposite, right? I think he's a little bit more on the people management side because that's his biggest strength. And so whether or not that ends up being the solution or we find somebody hopefully who has both is like that's the big thing. That,
in my opinion, that's what they need to be doing. They need to be having conversations with their top 2, top 3 prospects that they think this guy can come in and do a better job than Latanzio.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's not like, hey, like let's also bring in, like in my opinion, if they let go of Latanzio and bring somebody else with like potential, that's a bad move, right?
Yeah.
You need
Latanzio has potential.
I wouldn't mind having an established coach next go.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. If it's an established coach that has a track record, okay, we can see why you would. But if you're switching Latanzio up for somebody else that has potential, in my opinion, that's a mistake.
Yeah, you might as well just go with Latanzio because he also has potential. He's been an assistant and he's been with an expansion program before. Yeah. He knows how to get them successful.
And he's done a decent job. Like we're not like it's not like the season was over right after Miguel left, right? We've been competing for the last 2 months without him.
Yeah.
Right. So that will show you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and if you look at the developmental, like I mean, yeah, people say Mar was a great at like developing players, but I mean, Latanzio developed Gio Reyna, Phil Foden, Jaden Sant. Like, I mean, the list goes on and on and
Yeah,
on.
most of the players that have had improvement in this squad too are because of Latanzio. Don't forget that the one-on-ones with Bender, Brandt, Quinn, with our attacking line as well. So
Yeah, Reyna.
yeah,
After
it's
Reyna,
definitely.
started
I
playing.
definitely say I want to wait till the end of the season before I give my full judgment on Latanzio.
Yeah, for sure.
Right?
Well, I mean, again, and it also goes back down to the depth that we had, right? I mean, we are playing rookies, right, in the midfield. I mean, I don't know, man. I don't think Latanzio is our issue.
Yeah, there you go. That's the best way to put it. Like,
Yeah.
in terms of issues, I think coaching isn't necessarily the number one issue right now. I think is the lack of depth in the squad. Especially in my opinion, going into the season, I was like, "Yo, the area that we're stacked in the most is the midfield," and now looking at it is the most depleted. So it's really interesting to see. So moving on, let's talk a little bit about LA Galaxy, LAFC, Los Angeles FC, the team in contention right now for the Supporters Shield, the team who's everyone's favorite to win MLS Cup, a team who has Gareth Bale, a team who has Carlos Vela, a team who has Chiellini, a team who looks really, really good right now, sitting first in the Western Conference. Lee, talk to me. Is there any possibility that Charlotte can pull something out of this game? And I want to hear from everybody in the comments as well.
Well, football is a funny sport, right? I mean, you never know on the day what can happen. I'm just really worried. We're going to be doing a live watch along on our channel that night, and I just feel myself getting frustrated already. I just don't want to be embarrassed, man. Like, 3-1. I think LA is probably going to just really school us, man. We're going to look like an expansion team this weekend, man. That's the nicest thing I could say about it.
Dang. Tyler, my man, talk to me. I'll let you go last, Brian.
I think we're gonna compete. I don't know if we'll win the game. The way I see it, Charlotte all season has been a team that can show up for a game and beat somebody they're not supposed to, or lose to somebody that everybody thought we were gonna beat. So I don't have a particular feeling either way that we're gonna get destroyed or not, or go out and beat them.
I'm just worried because we're on the road.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's gonna be a close game. I don't think we might lose, but I don't think we're gonna get smashed.
So there's two things. Like, one, what doesn't bode well is that we just came off a 4-0 loss to Toronto the last time we were on the road, which is definitely still weighing on me specifically in just terms of like seeing how we showed up in the road like that. LA, I think, is supposed to be rotating their squad quite a bit because of their busy schedule. They've been doing like Leagues Cup matches against like Liga MX teams and things like that. So they might have a decent amount of rotation. The other issue there is their entire backup squad, their second 11, probably still would compete for starting position in our roster as well.
100%.
So their depth is absolutely unreal. I mean, we're likely to see Carlos Vela for about 65, 70 minutes, and then Bale's going to come right in for 25, 30 minutes right after that, which is just insane. So, and that's like how they have it pretty much across their entire depth at every position. Is they have a formidable backup pretty much everywhere. It's insane how well covered they are. And so, I mean, they're just gonna, like, Charlotte, to get anything out of this game, even just to stay competitive, is they're gonna just have to absolutely fight like hell. And my concern is we haven't seen that on the road. In the last couple of games, we used to see it, right? I feel like we used to see that. We used to see that fight like hell. They were outmatched a lot of times, but God, the last couple of games on the road just did not. That fight has not been there, and the legs have been just absolutely gassed way quicker than they used to be. And it seems like they're feeling the season a whole lot more on the road,
going all the way to the other coast.
Yep, and that coast is brutal, and the fans there are like, I mean, they've got a great fan base. So it's going to be a raucous party for them. And so my hope is that they can keep it within a goal, and we can somehow at least be fighting to try to get a draw. I think it could go for way. I mean, there's always a chance it could go way further south than that. And Latanzio has some huge decisions to make. Like we said, with the Corujo injury, how does that back line shape up? It can get and yeah, Corujo is going to have to put a lot of fires out in this game if he were to play, right? So how does the back line shape up after his injury? It's tough. It's a really tough
Very
situation.
tough, man. And just like you were mentioning too, you took the words right out of my mouth. Like, I mean, Toronto 4-0. Inter Miami, they flipped it on us and we lost 3-2 after leading 2-0. And in both of those games, we looked terrible. Probably the worst 2 games of our season to date. You know, and so how does the team that is already struggling away, that's only been able to get 5 points away, go and play at the home of one of the toughest teams in the league, one of probably the best fan bases out there compared to ours, you know, LAFC, right? How do they go out there and actually, you know, in my opinion, pull out some sort of miracle? And like the Yeti clan said, man, the defense, it has to be close to a perfect game. You know, in my opinion, I think we'll definitely sit tight. I think we'll see a very, very conservative lineup by Latanzio, especially with losing a guy like Guzman Corujo, our best center back of the season. Man, all this crap coming to us in the most crucial time of the season. But you know what?
Wouldn't want it any other way, man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This is what we wanted. We wanted a team, man. We wanted a team, and here we go, right? This is the struggle we deal with, man.
Yep. Hey, but if they pull out and they keep it competitive and they pull this out, I mean, over the moon.
Yeah,
over the freaking moon, dude.
You know, as long as this might be a game where scoring early might help us, right? We could, actually sit back and just soak some of that pressure up. But I don't know, like we said, right, with Bell and Co coming at you for 85 minutes, it could get nasty.
I don't think I could watch that.
Yeah,
I'd have a heart attack.
I mean, there's many years of my life I've lost.
If it's anything like Toronto, it's going to be a long game.
That's what I'm scared, man. This live stream's going
because I mean, they just took out RSL last week in Salt Lake, and Salt Lake's they're a good defensive team. They have a couple guys that got snubbed from the All-Star roster, and they beat them 4-1 on the road in elevation. And I was blown away that they had that kind of performance. I mean,
that Bale goal too.
Yeah, just took out everyone, made them look lazy. It was rough.
Yeah, man. I mean, yeah, and I think someone mentioned it as well, man. Or it was an article that we read. I mean, we're going into the toughest stretch in our games, right? With them, then we have to go and play at the MLS Cup champions home. So that'll be tough. Then we face Orlando at home. Then we face Toronto again, who freaking whooped us.
I mean, we got Cincinnati in there. But
Cincinnati is not no joke.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying, right? I mean, just looking at
the games that we would say, you know what, that should be a 3-pointer, right? We have to go.
We play LA, New York, Orlando, Toronto, Cincinnati, then New York. Man, that's our next 6 games.
And Philly's in there too. Philly's in there too, right?
No,
but Philly's coming up. We play Philly.
Yeah, Philly is coming up after. It's after the Chicago
last home game.
Yeah.
The only saving grace I have in terms of we can do something is I feel like there's always a fighting spirit in this squad.
Yeah.
That's something that the last 2 away games, we really didn't see that. But overall, I feel like this squad is really looking at this and saying, okay, we really have an opportunity to test ourselves against the best of the best coming up.
Wouldn't there be some shit though if we flipped the script and just went on this away game streak and can't win at home?
Right. I mean, that was key though. I mean, out of those 5 games that we had, I know we didn't play Columbus, but we only pulled out 3 out of 12 points. We only pulled out 6 out of 12. 7 out of 12. We would be in a really comfortable position to say, you know what? Give me that L in LA and I'm fine. We're still within those playoff spots. Now it becomes like more hopeful that
Well, we got lucky too the last couple of weeks too, right? I mean, some of the results went our way and that sort of thing too. So it's, we're riding Lady Luck, man, as hard as we can. And boy, she's about to buck and we're about to jump off. And that's a JT quote.
both teams in a way, unless you were playing in Rebels Arena.
I think
Good New York. Go ahead, Brian.
One other thing. This will be interesting if they can pull it off in terms of just like having that mentality they had going into the Chelsea match when they kind of just seemed like they were enjoying themselves, nothing to lose, right? They played like just a playful, fun game, right? And I think maybe that's also one of the issues we had in these last 4 or 5 games. I think maybe not only did we notice that this was a really winnable stretch, but I'm sure the players noticed like, hey, this is our time to really take advantage of this situation. And maybe they were just playing a little bit too much like they had something to lose in terms of a playoff spot in those 5 games. And they felt the pressure a little bit and they succumbed to it a little bit in terms of just like the inexperience, the youth on this squad. So I think maybe one upside is now that stretch is over, they're probably feeling like they have a whole lot less to lose than they did going into that stretch. And ideally, maybe that mentality can come in the surface in terms of like the way they approach the Chelsea game. If they can show up like that in LA, I think it's a long shot. But if they can have that mentality of like, hey, we're in LA, we have an opportunity to show the world something and just have fun and do it the way they did it against Chelsea. I think that's if they can have that approach, that's when they have a chance. I think that's how they have a chance is if they can be like, let's just enjoy ourselves, have fun, Panenka the penalty, right? That kind of shit. And just like, let's be playful and be ourselves. That's
I just love like a 7-0 drubbing, man. Like something like that would wreck the city.
Yeah,
it would, man.
Brutal.
Yeah.
So, and especially for all the what feels like Charlotte FC haters out there, you know what I'm saying?
They hate us because they ain't us, man.
Yeah, but I'm like, why would you want the club to do bad? You know what I'm saying? But that's another conversation for another day. You know, so now we have it's more of hope now than it is being realistic, right? But let's talk about it. Let's do some score predictions. And I'll start off with Lee because I feel like his isn't going to be so positive.
No, I mean, I think best case scenario, we lose 3-1.
Best case, we lose 3-1. And I want to hear from everybody in the comments as well. Who scores the goal for you? Alan Franco?
Who, for us?
Yeah.
No, Gaines on a wild cross.
Come on, bro.
But he goes to cross it, man. It takes some kind of crazy curve, man. Hits the top. It looks like a Classico, man. And yeah, we'll take it.
Ooh, Tyler, give us the score prediction, my man.
We got a 2-1 win for Charlotte. We got 2 own goals from Charlotte's Latif Blessing, and then 1 goal scored by
1 goal themselves.
Quinn McNeil.
Quinn McNeil.
Oh, yeah.
Own goal, yeah.
Nice.
We got 3 own goals.
3 own goals. That's sick. All right. I have 3-1 LAFC. I'm hoping we can see it stay tight 2-1 late in the game and we have a chance to really push for a draw there at the end. But unfortunately, I think at that point, there's also the chance that they get that second one to ice it. And that's where like Bale coming in the 70th minute is a major, major, major problem. And so that's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping we can keep it within a goal and just really try to fight till the end. And unfortunately, I think that's where also we have
the closer it is, the longer it goes, the better off we'll be, man.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's what I'm looking for.
All right.
Jorge, is that Google Translate?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. I was trying to understand what he was saying. But
he said we're going to lose 3-1.
I got to keep it real with you guys. This weekend, 0-0, minute 87, Charlotte FC corner. Everybody goes up. Even Kalina goes up, even if we still have 3 minutes left in the game. I'm kidding. And corner comes in. I guess Jordi Alcivar takes it. The back line tries to clear the ball. it smacks Gareth Bale right in the head, and it goes in 1-0.
On goal, baby. We need to sign this guy to a 2-year contract.
The result of the weekend went 1-0, and we stay in it. We stay alive, boys. We're pulling out 3 points from LA. I'm letting you know right now on this channel. You hear it first. Charlotte, 3 points this weekend. Own goal coming to save us.
Shoot. If I tell you what, if own goal saves us, man, I'm going to get that put in the back of this jersey. Own goal.
Yeah.
I love it. Let's just not score early. Let's just score really, really late and win it late.
Yeah. Let's do the opposite of what we've been doing.
Dang, I might. Should we place it back?
Mendoza, man. Mendoza's the one who puts the money on there. Mendoza, go ahead and throw 300 down on Charlotte real quick.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get in there. I'll put in a. Last time Swiderski let me down, but I'm gonna put in the win with Swiderski scoring.
Ooh, okay, nice. I'd like to see it too.
I hope y'all all win, man. Then that way you can buy me lunch.
Yeah.
Hey, we got Chicago's defense was really solid. We scored 2 goals against them. LA's defense hasn't been as good this season.
Mm-mm. No, they definitely. You can definitely score on them. The concern is being scored on.
Yeah, but we're gonna have Sobaczynski in the defense.
Yes.
Yeah, bro. He's gonna ping a nice long ball to Gaines. So.
Yeah. If he shuts down Vela, my goodness, dude, through the absolutely over the moon, dude. If Sobaczynski comes in and shuts him down,
he will, bro. He'll pocket him. The Polish pocket.
Yeah, dude.
Nice, awesome. Brian, my man, where can we find you at, my guy?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at BA Maurer Media. You can also find all my written work at topbin90.com. And thanks to all the subscribers. We got a bunch of subscribers over the last month, and a lot of them joined into the fantasy league, and that's been a super, super fun experience. I was really pumped to see that many people subscribing and participating in the fantasy league. So appreciate. I have a lot more victims now in fantasy.
Nice. Tyler, talking
shit week 1.
Yeah.
Tyler, tell us where we can find you and tell people where you're ranking in the Fantasy Premier League too. I think you're pretty high up.
Yeah, so I believe we have 55 people, and I'm maybe 53. So 55 is the best.
And you're picking Charlotte to win this week.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, 55 is the best. I got 53. So I mean, I'm pretty good. I don't want to toot my own horn too much, but and then you can find me at TTrent4, and we are going to be dropping an article tomorrow. We spoke with Sean McIntosh, the chief fan officer for Charlotte FC.
He's a good guy. He's a great guy.
Yeah, he's really nice. He let me talk on Zoom to him.
Yeah.
On transfer deadline day.
There you go.
Cut out 20 minutes for me.
Yeah. Shout out to Deuce too this weekend for showing up. Clint Dempsey, my guy. So I hit him up and I was like, yo, you need to get coordinated. He's like, all right. So we made that happen. Lima, man, where can we find you at?
All the socials at CLTFC Fan TV. We dropped the fan reactions for the Chicago games earlier today. We're doing our live stream tomorrow. Jorge will be there. Saturday, I guess we'll do a live stream. It's going to be just a lot of drinking our sorrows away. I feel it's going to be a very frustrating game. And as soon as the game's over, I'm sure we'll cut that stream right away and not have anything to talk about. But other than that, all we ask is you hit the sub button for us.
100%. And my 3-week ban from CLT FC Fan TV is finally over, and I can finally go back on the show. So I'm excited to be on there tomorrow.
Yeah, we're not if we're gonna act like that again, dude, we might have to call it rest of the season ban, man. But take that off.
All right, cool. And you know where you can find me at
DC United games, apparently.
Andy Nahar 14.
You can find me at TopBin90 on all the socials, all the platforms. Real TopBin90. We got some cool stuff coming up. We got some more giveaways as well coming up. And I got some really cool stuff happening with the players too. Hopefully all of y'all watched that Q&A with Chris Hagar, Adam Armour, and
that was good. That was really good.
Really funny.
That was funny. I love that. A lot of the people at the club had a good reception on it. So we'll definitely be doing more things in the future as well. So I might be reaching out to you guys to see who's got some good like camera experience that can follow all of us around as we tour David Tepper's home. Just kidding. With that, we end another episode of the MLS Corner. Everybody, thank you so much for coming on. Have a good night and be blessed.
Peace.